In a world where words echo louder than actions, where affection is measured by how often someone speaks rather than how deeply they stand, we have forgotten the quiet language of a man's love. Men love through devotion, not declaration. Their hearts do not express themselves in poetry or promises, but in presence, in effort, and in the silent rituals of loyalty that go unnoticed. When a man loves, he does not always say it. He lives it. His love is not the flame that demands attention, but the steady warmth that sustains through the cold. To understand how a man loves, you must first understand the nature of devotion. Devotion is not a feeling, it is a practice. It is not loud, nor is it seeking validation. Devotion exists where consistency replaces confession, where steadiness replaces performance. A man's love matures through the weight of his responsibility. He does not prove his love through grand words, but through how he shows up when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when life becomes silent and ordinary. For many men, the world has taught them to hide their tenderness, to armor their emotions, to speak strength instead of sensitivity. So when a man loves, he may not know how to declare it with elegance or eloquence, but you will feel it in the things he does not abandon. You will see it in the way he fixes, provides, protects, and stays. You will sense it in his quiet observations, in how he remembers small details, in how he carries your burdens without naming them. His devotion becomes the invisible structure that supports everything that cannot be said. Devotion for a man is not about words, it is about weight. It is about the weight of his care, the weight of his time, the weight of his effort. He invests not in moments of passion, but in the continuity of presence. Even when distance comes, even when silence stretches, his devotion remains a pulse beneath it all. Steady, unshaken, unperformed. He is not moved by applause or attention. His love is sustained by a promise he made to his own heart. When a man loves through devotion, his affection might seem simple, almost invisible. He may not say, "I love you," often, but he makes sure you are safe. He may not write long messages, but he remembers what matters to you. He may not talk about his feelings, but he quietly makes sure your world does not fall apart. His love exists in gestures that many overlook. The repaired door hinge, the early morning drive, the silent waiting, the small sacrifices made without mention. These are not random acts, they are rituals of devotion. But in a culture obsessed with expression, such love is often misunderstood. We look for declarations, not dedication. We want to hear passion rather than feel peace. Yet a man's love often hides in his discipline, in the things he repeats daily, in the patience he practices, in the endurance he maintains. His devotion is his declaration, but it is spoken in a language only stillness can hear. The devoted man does not love for reward. His love does not depend on conditions or reciprocation. He loves because it is his nature to protect, to build, to honor. His devotion is not performance. It is alignment with who he is when he decides that someone has become part of his inner world. In that devotion, he finds purpose. He becomes softer in his silence, wiser in his restraint, stronger in his loyalty. For him, love is not something to display, it is something to serve. He expresses love not in what he says, but in what he sustains. His devotion is patient, not desperate for recognition, not fragile under pressure. When he commits, it is not to possess, but to preserve. His loyalty is not loud, but it is lasting. His love endures through misunderstanding, through distance, through the quiet tests of time. Many women miss this form of love because it does not come with fireworks. It does not announce itself with dramatic gestures or poetic lines. It comes with rhythm, slow, deliberate, unwavering. It comes with eyes that stay soft even when his words are few. It comes with the subtle strength of someone who shows up again and again, even when unseen. That is how a man's heart speaks, not in declarations, but in the repetition of care. A man who loves through devotion will build silently. He will carry the relationship as though it were a garden, not a stage. He will water it with effort, not adorn it with promises. And if you look closely, you will see that his love is not bound by what he says, but by what he never allows to fall apart. Devotion is not dramatic, but it is dependable. It does not need to be loud, because it is real. His love is the kind that wakes before dawn to provide, that stays awake to ensure safety, that sacrifices comfort to preserve connection. It is the love that works quietly in the background, holding together the unseen threads that others take for granted. It is not about romance in words. It is about reverence in action. The devoted man does not need the world to witness his love, he needs only to live it with integrity. When a man loves through devotion, he becomes a guardian of your peace. He listens more than he speaks. He holds space more than he demands attention. He chooses understanding over reaction, patience over possession. His love is not the rush of infatuation. It is the calm that follows after it. And in that calm, in that quiet steadiness, lies a love far deeper than any declaration could ever express. Before a man can open his heart, he must first feel that it is safe to do so. Emotional safety is the soil from which emotional depth grows. Without it, love becomes performance, connection becomes guarded, and truth remains hidden behind defense. For a man whose inner world has often been shaped by silence and restraint, the ability to feel safe in expressing emotion is not something that comes easily. It must be earned through trust, through patience, through the steady reassurance that his vulnerability will not be used against him. A man who does not feel emotionally safe will love through distance. He will remain half present, cautious, watching, waiting to see if his truth can breathe without being suffocated by criticism or misunderstanding. Many confuse this distance for indifference, but it is not. It is protection. It is a form of survival learned from a world that often tells men their emotions are weakness, their sensitivity is shame, and their openness makes them less capable. So before a man can love deeply, he must first feel that his emotions can exist freely, without judgment, without ridicule, without the constant demand to be stronger than he feels. Emotional safety is not created through words, it is created through energy. It is the tone that listens, not interrupts. The eyes that soften instead of accuse. The presence that allows space rather than pressure. When a woman or partner provides that space, something within a man begins to unwind. The tension in his heart, built from years of needing to appear composed, begins to ease. His silence becomes softer, not defensive. His guard begins to lower, not because he is forced, but because he feels seen in a way that does not demand explanation. For a man, emotional safety is not about control, it is about peace. It is the peace of knowing that his mistakes will not be weaponized, that his fears will not be laughed at, that his moments of uncertainty will not make him less respected. A man cannot love deeply when he feels he must perform perfection to be loved. Depth does not grow in fear. It grows where acceptance lives. It grows where he feels that he can lay down the armor and still be valued for who he is underneath. Many people speak of wanting emotional connection, but few understand that connection is not built through conversation alone. It is built through how the conversation feels. When a man opens himself emotionally, he does so with caution. He is testing whether his heart will be held or handled. He listens not just to your words, but to your tone, your reactions, your silence. Emotional safety is sensed, not declared. It is the calm between two people where the soul can breathe without being afraid of exposure. In that safety, a man begins to reveal what he hides from the world. His doubt, his pain, his confusion, his tenderness. He begins to share not because he must, but because he trusts. And that trust is sacred. It cannot be rushed or demanded. It grows slowly like roots spreading quietly beneath the surface, invisible but essential. Once a man feels emotionally safe, the layers begin to unfold naturally. He becomes more expressive, more attentive, more honest. He begins to show affection not as a transaction, but as a reflection of his comfort. His love becomes a mirror of the safety he feels. Without that safety, his emotions will retreat into logic. He will overthink what he feels, measure his responses, censor his truth. He will appear emotionally distant, not because he lacks emotion, but because he fears what might happen if he shows it. He fears that his softness will be misunderstood as weakness, that his sensitivity will be punished instead of embraced. This fear is not born from arrogance. It is born from experience, from a lifetime of being told that emotions make him less of a man. To create emotional safety for a man is to allow him to rediscover himself. It is to let him speak without immediately correcting. It is to listen to what he means, not only what he says. It is to make him feel that he can fall apart for a moment without losing your respect. It is to show that love does not withdraw when he is quiet, uncertain, or afraid. Emotional safety is the quiet assurance that he is not alone in his struggle, that he can be seen in his wholeness, strong and soft, rational and emotional, grounded and human. When a man feels safe, something shifts in his energy. His body relaxes, his eyes soften, his voice becomes slower, deeper, more sincere. His gestures become more natural, less guarded. His mind stops defending and his heart begins communicating. Emotional safety allows him to move from survival to sincerity. And in that sincerity, emotional depth begins to blossom. He starts to express what he truly feels, not what he thinks he should feel. He begins to love with intention, not fear. He begins to listen, not to respond, but to connect. A man's emotional depth is not a switch you can turn on. It is a doorway that opens when he no longer feels the need to protect himself. That doorway cannot be forced. It must be invited, and the invitation is written in understanding, in consistency, in calm. When he sees that he can express sadness without being made small, frustration without being condemned, and affection without being mocked, his heart begins to trust the space it is in. And in that trust, emotional depth emerges naturally. Love becomes more than words or gestures. It becomes a living presence between two people who no longer fear being real. The man who once hid behind silence begins to speak through sincerity. The man who once appeared cold begins to express warmth. The man who once withheld his emotions begins to share them freely, not because he must, but because he feels safe enough to. This is why emotional safety always precedes emotional depth. For love cannot expand where fear resides. A man's heart, like any heart, blooms only in the climate of peace. When he feels safe, he goes deeper, not because he is taught to, but because he remembers that it is safe to feel again. For a man, love cannot exist without respect. Affection may begin with attraction, curiosity, or admiration, but it only grows roots when it is grounded in respect. Respect is not simply politeness or praise. It is the silent acknowledgement of his essence, his effort, and his existence. It is seeing who he is beyond what he provides, beyond what he shows, beyond what he achieves. It is valuing his inner world, his struggle, his discipline, his way of carrying life's weight without demanding constant recognition. Respect is the soil in which a man's affection takes form, and without it, even love will wither into distance. A man feels loved when he feels respected. It is through respect that he feels safe to lead, to share, to commit, and to trust. When respect is present, his heart opens naturally because respect affirms his purpose. It tells him that he is seen not just for what he does, but for who he is when no one is watching. It reassures him that his presence matters, that his thoughts have weight, that his contributions are meaningful. For a man, affection is not sustained by constant validation or flattery. It is nourished by the quiet, unwavering energy of respect. To respect a man is to honor his effort. Not to glorify it, but to recognize it. Many do not realize that men often measure love not by how much they are desired, but by how deeply they are respected. When he feels disrespected, his affection begins to retreat. He may still stay, he may still care, but a part of his heart starts to protect itself. Disrespect to a man is not simply an insult, it feels like erosion. It eats away at his willingness to give, to protect, to build. But when respect lives in the space between two hearts, his devotion becomes limitless, his patience grows, and his affection transforms into quiet strength. Respect is not submission, and it is not silence. It is understanding. It is the ability to disagree without degradation. It is the grace of speaking truth without humiliation. It is giving room for him to express himself without fear of being dismissed or belittled. Respect is the pause between reaction and response, the space where mutual understanding breathes. When a man feels this kind of respect, his affection becomes deeper, more consistent, more grounded. He no longer loves as a transaction, he loves as an extension of trust. For many men, respect and love are intertwined. He may not say it in words, but in his heart. Respect feels like love. He falls for the woman who believes in him even when he doubts himself. He opens to the one who speaks with patience rather than pride. He gives his loyalty to the one who does not compete with his energy, but complements it. His affection grows not through admiration of appearance, but through reverence for character. When he senses that you see his effort, when he feels that you understand the weight he carries, he begins to relax into love. Respect becomes the bridge through which his emotions safely travel. A man who feels respected stands differently. His presence becomes calm, his confidence quiet but steady. He feels free to give without fear of being taken for granted. His affection, once restrained, begins to move with ease. He will protect more, provide more, listen more, not because he must, but because he wants to. His love expands in the environment of respect, just as a flame grows stronger when sheltered from the wind. The more he feels that his spirit is not being attacked or undermined, the more generous his heart becomes. Disrespect, however subtle, can close that heart quickly. Sarcasm, belittlement, dismissive tones, constant correction, these are small blades that cut into his sense of worth. Over time, they create silence where expression once lived. They make him question whether it is safe to be himself, whether his efforts are ever enough. A man who feels disrespected does not stop caring, but he begins to withdraw his warmth. His words become fewer, his laughter less frequent, his gestures mechanical. He starts to exist rather than connect. But when respect returns, so does life in his affection. Respect is also how a man recognizes partnership. When he feels respected, he no longer sees love as a competition, but as collaboration. He begins to trust the connection enough to be vulnerable, to share his doubts, to ask for guidance without feeling emasculated. Respect tells him that he is allowed to be human, that he can lead and learn, that he can protect and still need protection. In that balance, affection becomes sustainable, not a spark that fades, but a steady flame that endures. To respect a man is to notice the small things that define his integrity, the decisions he makes when no one sees, the battles he fights in silence, the dreams he pursues without recognition. It is to speak to him not as someone to control, but as someone to honor. It is to appreciate his effort, not only his outcome. It is to value his opinions, not only when they align with your own. True respect allows love to mature because it builds an emotional foundation that does not crumble under disagreement or change. A respected man becomes a peaceful man. His affection deepens when he feels trusted, when his intentions are not doubted, when his voice is not silenced. In that peace, he expresses more, loves more, gives more. He begins to bring out his softer layers, the affection that hides behind his discipline, the tenderness that hides behind his logic, the poetry that hides behind his practicality. Respect gives him permission to be whole, to bring his full self into the relationship without fear of losing his dignity. And this is what many overlook, that a man's love grows from being respected, not from being pursued. When respect is present, his affection becomes sacred. It is no longer about desire or validation. It becomes about devotion. He commits not because he has to, but because he feels seen, valued, and honored for who he is. And in that recognition, his affection deepens beyond words. It becomes action, consistency, and the quiet promise that he will not fail what he respects. A man may notice attention, but he falls in love with peace. Attention excites him, peace grounds him. Attention catches his eyes, peace captures his soul. In a world full of noise, pressure, and expectation, what touches a man most deeply is not how much someone wants him, but how calm he feels when he is near her. It is not how many words she says to praise him, but how her energy quiets the noise in his mind. Peace is the rarest form of beauty to a man who has been fighting unseen battles. Attention is temporary. It stimulates, it flatters, it entertains. But peace is eternal. It nourishes, it restores, it heals. When a man meets a woman who carries peace, he feels something different inside him. It is not the rush of infatuation, it is the sense of returning home. Peace does not demand, it allows. It does not compete for space, it creates it. When a woman brings peace, she does not need to convince a man to stay. He stays because his heart rests in her presence. Men spend much of their lives trying to hold the world together. Their responsibilities, their pride, their pain. They are taught to endure, to provide, to suppress. In such a life, a peaceful presence is not just appealing, it is sacred. When he finds peace in someone, he feels safe enough to remove the armor he wears for everyone else. He begins to breathe differently around her. His shoulders relax, his tone softens, his laughter becomes real. That peace is not something that can be performed. It is something that is felt, a vibration that quiets his restlessness and reminds him that love does not have to be chaos. When a man falls for peace, he is not falling for perfection. He is falling for presence. He is drawn to the energy that does not argue to dominate, that does not seek to control, that does not thrive on drama. He falls for the one who can listen without reacting, who can disagree without disrespect, who can hold silence without fear. Peace, to him, is not the absence of conversation, it is the quality of it. It is when he feels that his words do not need to be rearranged to be accepted. It is when he senses that he is heard, not just answered. A peaceful woman is not passive. She is powerful in her calm. Her peace does not mean she avoids conflict, it means she handles it without destruction. Her emotions do not vanish, but they flow with awareness. Her presence feels steady, like earth beneath his unsteady feet. When he is with her, he does not feel judged for being uncertain or tired. He feels understood, and in that understanding, his affection begins to deepen. His love shifts from excitement to devotion, from thrill to trust. Attention may attract many men, but peace reveals the one who is ready for love. A man who seeks peace is a man who is tired of pretending. He is not impressed by games or constant stimulation. He is drawn to the energy that feels genuine, that allows him to rest his thoughts without being questioned for his silence. Peace, to him, feels like oxygen. It is what he did not know he was missing until he experiences it. The peace that draws a man in is not made of words but of energy. The calm that comes from emotional maturity, the warmth that comes from empathy, the softness that comes from self-control. A man feels this peace when he realizes he does not have to perform to be valued. He does not have to always lead the conversation, fix the moment, or defend his position. Peace allows him to be without losing himself. In such a space, his affection grows naturally because love feels like freedom, not pressure. Men do not always express their emotions in the same language as women. They often feel more than they can explain. So when a man feels peace, he may not articulate it, but he will show it in how he behaves. He will linger longer in your presence, not because he needs more of you, but because he finds more of himself when he is near you. He will listen more, soften more, give more. He will start to protect that peace because deep down he knows how rare it is. Attention can fill a moment, peace fills a life. A man who chases attention may never stop searching, but a man who finds peace stops running. Peace makes him feel complete. It tells him that he can be human, that he can have quiet days and be accepted, that he can have flaws and still be loved, that he can fail and not lose his worth. That kind of acceptance makes him want to build, not escape. It makes him loyal not out of obligation, but out of gratitude. The peace you bring to a man does not come from external charm or appearance. It comes from your inner harmony, how you handle your emotions, how you speak, how you listen, how you respond. Peace is a reflection of your alignment with yourself. A woman who has found her own calm gives peace not because she tries to, but because she is it. Her stillness becomes her strength, her softness becomes her power, her balance becomes her beauty. A man falls for that not because it entertains him, but because it heals him. When he senses that your presence does not drain his energy, but restores it, he begins to cherish it. When he realizes that you do not compete with his silence but complement it, he starts to trust it. And that trust turns into love, not the loud, dramatic kind, but the steady, enduring kind. Peace becomes the heartbeat of connection, the unspoken bond that makes him want to stay, not because he must, but because he has found the rarest feeling in a noisy world. Calmness with someone who feels like home. Before a man ever says, "I love you," he has already been loving you quietly in the spaces where words do not reach. His love begins long before the confession. It begins in observation, in the way he studies you when you speak, in how he notices the smallest details that you thought no one saw. His love starts not with a declaration, but with attention, not with expression, but with presence. He loves first through his silence, because for a man, silence is not emptiness, it is depth. It is the sacred space where his feelings form before they find their voice. A man's heart often moves in ways that are hidden. He may not show emotion easily, he may not speak his affection freely, but inside, his silence carries meaning. When he begins to love, he withdraws into himself, not to avoid the feeling, but to understand it. He weighs it, he measures it, he protects it. Love, to him, is not something to be spoken lightly. It is something to be earned, something to be proven, something to be lived. Before he ever allows the words to leave his lips, he tests his own sincerity. He wants to know that what he feels is not a passing desire, but something steady, something real. In silence, he watches. He observes how he feels around you, whether your presence calms him or confuses him, whether your energy feels like home or like noise. He studies how you treat others, how you handle frustration, how you move through life. Every small act, every unspoken moment becomes part of his quiet understanding. He falls in love not through dramatic gestures, but through subtle moments of recognition. He loves you when you are not trying to impress him, when you are simply being. That is where his heart begins to form its bond, in stillness, not in spectacle. A man's silence in love is often misunderstood. Some think it means disinterest, indifference, or hesitation. But silence for him is protection. It is the space he creates to guard what he values from the noise of the world. His silence allows him to feel deeply without interference. He loves you silently because he is still building the courage to make his emotions known. He is still learning how to express something that feels larger than his vocabulary. In his quiet, he is not avoiding love, he is honoring it. He is making sure that when he finally speaks, his words will carry truth, not impulse. In his silence, you will notice gestures, the small things he does that do not need to be explained, the way he remembers your preferences, the way he anticipates your needs, the way he subtly adjusts to make you more comfortable. These are not coincidences, they are his language. He loves through consistency, not conversation. His silence is not void of expression, it is filled with devotion. Every act of service, every moment of presence, every time he chooses patience over pride, his silence is speaking for him. When he loves in silence, he listens more than he speaks. He listens not just to your words, but to your tone, your pauses, your silences. He wants to understand what you mean beyond what you say. His love makes him attentive, not reactive. He becomes the quiet witness to your emotions, learning how to be your peace without needing to fix everything. His silence is not absence, it is awareness. It is how he memorizes the rhythm of your heart before he ever tries to join it. There is a sacredness in the way a man loves before he speaks. He builds it slowly, like a craftsman shaping something fragile and valuable. He takes his time, not because he is unsure, but because he respects the gravity of what he feels. He knows that words are easy, but commitment is weighty. So he speaks through effort first, through reliability, through being where he says he will be, through protecting you even before you realize you need protection. His silence is the groundwork for the loyalty that will follow. In his silence, there is a testing of truth. He watches how you handle his distance, how you respond to uncertainty, how you treat his vulnerability when it appears in fragments. He notices whether your energy demands reassurance or provides it. A man loves differently when he feels safe, but before he feels safe, he loves in quiet. His silence is a way of building trust with himself and with you. It is a space where his affection learns patience. It is not that he does not feel deeply, it is that he feels too deeply to rush. For him, love is not a performance, it is a revelation. When he finally speaks it, it will not be to impress you. It will be to confirm what has already been living within him. His "I love you" is not the beginning of his feeling, it is the acknowledgement of what his heart has been silently carrying for a long time. By the time he says it, he has already chosen you. He has already envisioned the future, already felt the responsibility, already accepted the emotional weight. His silence was never uncertainty, it was preparation. Many overlook this silent phase of a man's love. They look for expression, but miss the quiet devotion beneath it. They look for words, but miss the steadiness of his actions. A man's silence is not the absence of love. It is the form it takes before it finds language. It is the meditation before the vow, the patience before the promise. When he loves in silence, he is not distant. He is deep within himself, aligning his heart with his intention. To understand a man's love, you must learn to listen not only to what he says, but to what he does not. His silence holds messages that only stillness can interpret. When he waits to speak, it is not because he doubts what he feels, but because he wants his words to match his truth. He loves quietly because his love is not seeking attention. It is seeking meaning. He does not want to say it until he knows he can live it. So, before you hear his words, his silence has already been speaking. In his patience, in his consistency, in his gentle steadiness, you will find his confession. He loves not through noise, but through presence. And though he may not say it yet, his silence carries more honesty than 1,000 declarations ever could. When a man truly loves, he does not seek to own. He does not love to control, to claim, or to conquer. His love is not about possession. It is about loyalty. It is a devotion that moves quietly and steadily, a kind of commitment that does not need to display itself for validation. For him, love is not a cage, it is a compass. It gives direction to his heart, not boundaries to another's freedom. Love, for a man who understands its depth, is a vow of consistency. Loyalty to a man is sacred. It is not simply about remaining faithful in absence or resisting temptation. Loyalty in his world means standing firm even when life becomes uncertain, choosing presence even when distance tempts withdrawal, holding respect even when emotions are tested. Loyalty is the reflection of his integrity. It is how he shows love when no one is watching, how he stays committed when the world changes, how he honors the connection without needing control. It is a quiet kind of love, but it is unbreakable. Possession comes from fear. The fear of loss, the fear of inadequacy, the fear of being replaced. Loyalty comes from trust, the trust that love does not need ownership to endure. A loyal man knows that love cannot be forced and affection cannot be caged. What is genuine does not need to be held tightly, it needs to be honored freely. Possession clings, loyalty stands beside. Possession says, "You are mine." Loyalty says, "I am with you." The difference is not in proximity, but in purpose. Possession wants to keep, loyalty wants to protect. When a man loves through loyalty, he does not measure his relationship by how much he can control, but by how much he can contribute. His love is not about dominance, it is about devotion. He sees love not as a contract, but as a commitment to growth, both his and yours. He does not seek to own your independence, your voice, or your path. Instead, he seeks to walk beside it, to support it, to protect it without limiting it. In his loyalty, he finds freedom, and in that freedom, his love becomes even stronger. For a man, loyalty is tested not in the light, but in the shadows, when misunderstandings arise, when distance stretches, when silence lingers. In those moments, loyalty speaks through his patience. He does not abandon, he endures. He does not accuse, he reflects. His love is not reactive, it is rooted. He may not always know how to articulate his feelings, but his loyalty speaks louder than words. You will see it in how he returns, how he listens, how he stays true to his word. His love is not about what he can gain, but about what he can keep sacred. A loyal man does not confuse loyalty with submission. His devotion does not mean losing himself. It means being consistent with who he is, even when circumstances change. It means keeping his values steady when emotions fluctuate. It means protecting your dignity as fiercely as his own. His loyalty is not blind, it is conscious, aware, chosen daily. He loves with his eyes open, not through fantasy but through faith. For him, loyalty is not the absence of choice, it is the affirmation of it. He chooses to love again and again, even when it is difficult, even when it is quiet. A man's loyalty is often invisible to the untrained eye. It is not in grand gestures or constant declarations, but in how he shows up. When he protects your peace without being asked, when he defends your name when you're not around, when he remembers the promises you have forgotten. That is loyalty. He may not always speak about his love, but he lives it. His loyalty is in how he guards what matters, in how he keeps what is sacred untouched by distraction or doubt. Possession, on the other hand, drains love of its purity. It turns affection into control, care into demand, protection into imprisonment. A man who loves with possession is ruled by fear. Fear of losing, fear of being unloved, fear of vulnerability. But a man who loves with loyalty is guided by strength. He understands that love is not lost through distance, nor diminished by individuality. He trusts that what is meant for him cannot be taken, and that true love does not require chains. It requires courage. When a man loves through loyalty, he values your freedom as much as his own. He does not shrink when you shine. He does not compete when you succeed. His love celebrates rather than confines. He does not need to monitor or manage you because his trust is strong enough to withstand the unknown. He knows that real connection is not maintained through control but through mutual respect. His loyalty is not about ownership. It is about alignment. Two people choosing each other without needing to restrict one another. Loyalty also teaches him patience. It teaches him that love grows not through intensity, but through endurance. That affection is not proven in moments of passion, but in seasons of consistency. That devotion is not about never being tempted, but about never betraying the bond even in thought or energy. Loyalty keeps his heart disciplined. It reminds him that his love is a reflection of his character, not a reaction to his circumstances. A man who walks the path of loyalty becomes peaceful. He does not need to question constantly or control endlessly. He rests in the quiet confidence that his actions and intentions are aligned. He knows that love, when nurtured with loyalty, does not have to be guarded with fear. It protects itself through truth. His affection, therefore, is calm, not loud, not performative, but steady. It is the kind of love that can withstand silence, distance, and time, because it was never built on possession. For such a man, love is not a battlefield to conquer, it is a journey to honor. He loves not to own, but to uphold. He does not build walls around his heart to keep you in, he builds a foundation strong enough for both to stand. His loyalty is his language, his way of saying, I am here, even when unseen, I am constant, even when quiet. To him, that is love, not a power to wield, but a promise to keep.